Awesome. Thank you. Good morning. It is Monday morning, and I am in front of my favorite. Do you think I look like Ben Franklin? Little bit. All right. That's cool. Jeremy, what's going on? How's the volume? Is it good? Jakey Bakey, it's Monday. It is fun day. Every day is Monday to me. It is the first day of the rest of my week because there's activity you get paid for, activity you don't get paid for. Let's jump right into it. Let's answer some questions. Come live with me. We are in the office today, social distancing, bringing in a new group of interns as well. Going to be in and out of here. So I got good light and a good background. And the old Chargers hat. Chargers called me and said they're going to send me some new hats so we get the new logos. Thank you for reaching out. I appreciate it. Top of the morning. Blessings to you. Let me know where you're coming in from. I appreciate it. Hey, Dave. Hi, Deborah. Hi, you shouted me out yesterday. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jakie, happy Monday. All right, let's roll these questions. Here we go. Is Team David Meltzer here pinning stuff up? Blaine, maybe you could hook me up and get that on there. Thank you. I guess Team David Meltzer overslept. What happened to that team? Some teams are in first place and some aren't. Best advice for an intern starting today. 4 things. If I'm going to teach you anything, and everybody can listen to this, 4 things you got to learn. Number 1, gratitude. Gratitude is going to give you perspective. If I can teach you gratitude and the time you're here for the summer, you will be golden the rest of your life. You'll be able to find the light, the love, and the lessons for everything that you learn. So you need to learn gratitude. It makes your past better, your present even better than that, and your future brighter than that. 2, forgiveness. One of the things in corporate environment that we don't see enough of is forgiveness. People love and can't give that forgiveness. You can't give what you don't have. So forgiveness gives you peace. Don't forgive other people because they deserve it. Forgive other people because you deserve it. 3rd, accountability. If I can teach you 2 questions, ask yourself, what did I do to attract this to myself, and what am I supposed to learn from it? Those are the key things to understand, and what I'll teach to all the interns and employees and every day, Monday training, Monday meetings, Friday trainings. These are the 4 bases of success. And then finally, understanding what I call effective communication or inspiration, understanding that you are always connected to the greatest source of energy, light, and love at all times, and you are the one that creates the interference, the corrosion between that in which you're connected to. And then 2, you're also connected to everything and everyone. So you need to clear that connection as well. So if you feel bad in either one of these connections, that's the interference, that's the corrosion. If you feel bad, your thermostat for what you're doing in your life should not be your bank account. Bank account is part of that thermostat. It's part of the aggregate because it is an energy that exists at this vibration. It's a currency. It's an object of energy that you put into the flow to get what you want. Money's important, but it's not the thermostat. Your bank account's not the thermostat. The way you feel is your thermostat, and you should feel good, right? That's why I teach happiness. I'm hoping that some of these interns that will go on and empower 1,000 people to be happy in their life, to empower 1,000 people, reaching my ultimate goal of empowering others to empower others to be happy. Over 1 billion people, hopefully in my lifetime, will learn to be happy, and we can create that collective consciousness. Speaking of which, Friday we are doing our weekly training for free as always. Hopefully my team, David Meltzer, will get that pinned up there, or Blaine or somebody, Jake. I'm glad we have interns because we're going to have a lot of job openings. Josh, what do you think? A lot of job openings, can't figure out how to just post up Friday. Hey, Jake, way to step up, buddy. Way to go. The haircut has not affected Jake. Way to go. There we go. Join me Friday, 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern Time. Free training. If I seem a little bit frustrated, only because my ego's in my way, because that's my main purpose of being here in the morning, is to empower others. And that's how I do it, is have them come to free training so I can teach them gratitude, forgiveness or empathy, accountability, effective communication. David is not in the closet anymore. Not today. I am in my studio, but Mia is here to take some video and watch the slow transition from the closet. Biggest mistake you made early in your career is the same mistake I make every part of my career. It just made it's radical humility. I didn't ask for help. please ask and attract, in person, on the phone, via email, social media, radio, print, TV, whatever you're using. Make sure you're asking people how you can be of value or service, creating a void for what you want, and asking for help. Find people that sit in the situation that you want to be in and ask them for help. Make them feel good. It's a great thing to do. Do you have any key to success for me? Yes, Joseph. The keys to success is to enjoy, right? So have a positive perspective. Enjoyment is seeking the light, the love, and the lessons. That's how you enjoy the consistent every day. That's using the continuum of the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious mind. It works in a pattern of consistency. That's how data moves from the stupid memory that you have in your cells to the intermediate memory of your subconscious to a hard drive that you have in your quantum nature, your DNA. And so you need to enjoy the consistent, everyday, persistent, which is we're going to talk about on Friday at free training at 11 a.m. Pacific. Persistent, don't quit, right? You can't quit. The only difference between people that have what they want and people that don't have what they want in their life is the people that have what they want didn't quit. So enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit, right? That's the enjoyment. It's you're happy when you're pursuing something. You're expanding, you're growing, you're making room for what you want. If you're sitting around in your comfort zone, high on your mom's couch, broke, sick, there's a reason. It's because you're not pursuing anything. You got to find your what and pursue your what, your potential, your truth, what you want. Vote for what you want, not for what other people want. Go ahead, enjoy learning from others and taking their advice, but pursue what you want. Vote for what you want after aggregating and assessing everything that you want according to your personal, experiential, giving and receiving values. All right, Joseph, it's a little bit of advice for you this morning. Let's keep the questions coming. Let's see here. What's this Friday's training on? This Friday's training is on don't quit, persistence. Don't quit. It's about don't quit. All right? Sorry, I'm reading something. My brain works in a weird way. All right, here we go. What was your favorite job growing? I assume growing up. My favorite job growing up is when I was in college, I sold educational systems. And so what happened was there was a company that bought leads of newborn parents, meaning parents who just had a baby. And then 2 times a night, I would go out to those homes. And back then there was things called encyclopedias. Basically, it was a very mini micro version of the internet. It was a bunch of books that had an index. Then you'd look up something in the index, and that would lead you to the correct volume of an encyclopedia. And you would look up, what a leopard is, and it would give you a whole thing on a leopard. And it was the inception of Google, basically, in book form. So my favorite job, though, is I would go in college while all my friends had jobs that didn't pay very much. I think minimum wage back then was, you could double check it, $4.65 an hour. So I'm just aging myself. I got my daughter over there going, are you kidding? You used to work for $4.65. I'm like, yeah, I did. But no, I didn't, because I knew I was never going to attach me to time and money, because there's only so much time. So I don't care if they pay me $1,000 an hour. There's only so much time. I'm going to be paid for value, and I'm going to provide more value than I receive. So I went into those homes and sold a $2,500 educational system where you get the books to read for, even if the lady was pregnant, you would have books to read to newborns, starting to develop the brain. I tell about my family and the history of my family, of all my Ivy League siblings and summa cum laude, and I'd go in there and then I'd finance it down to like, can you see any reason for $30 a month you wouldn't want your kid to attend Harvard? That was one of my favorite jobs growing up. And it was because I started to vote. Everyone thought I was crazy taking that job, and I made so much more money. The same way as selling tennis shoes before I went to the law firm, my second summer in law school, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m. at Roadrunner Sports, outsold everybody. Incoming sales of tennis shoes in the morning. Good morning, Roadrunner Sports, your number one superstore. How can I help you? That's right, made more money than working at the law firm. Hey, there's Team David Meltzer. Good morning, 8:09 Monday morning. Welcome to the show, team. All right, here we go. Nothing like being on time. The minute you're not on time, you have just wasted everyone else's time. You mentioned we lose exponential growth and momentum when we take days off. How would you deal? So I don't have the rest of that there, Emrod, but let me try to hit on that. Here's how exponential growth in the zeroing effect works. If you believe in the continuum, conscious, subconscious, and unconscious continuum, and that's how our frequency is directed to attract what we want more rapidly and accurately. If you believe that continuum, then the exponentiality, even though our senses can't really pick up on it, meaning the exponentiality, our eyes, our nose, our ears, our taste, our touch, our memories are stupid, so we don't perceive incremental tiny growth. But it is. And so if you grow by doing something every day, it would be X to the first for day one, X to the second, X to the third, and so on. Well, when you don't do something, if you believe in this continuum, which I do, you get X to the zero. X to the zero is back to one. I checked my math. I got an 8-year-old. Oh, he's 10 now, but he knows math, and he told me this is true. So X to the zero is one. I call it the zeroing effect. It takes you back to the beginning. It's why people live the myth of Sisyphus. The myth of Sisyphus says, I'm going to roll a boulder up the hill all day and just to have it roll down at night, right? That's what happens when we zero effect our lives. So you do not get the exponential effect. That's why you can go and diet for 28 out of 30 days in a month, and you zero yourself out the other 2 days by going through the drive-thru at McDonald's, In-N-Out, having yourself a nice sundae or whatever it may be, and you don't lose any weight at the end of the month. Right? But if you consistently, persistently pursue your potential and enjoy it, and you exercise, and you have a consistent nutrition plan, even if it's less than the person that goes out for 28 days, all hardcore, you're going to do better. 2 minutes a day is worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday. I promise you. That's the way the mind, body, and soul work. That's the way the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious continuum all work together to allow you to accelerate and grow, even if your senses and your memory can't figure it out. All right. Let's go back into the questions here. What's the best way to come out from a setback? Well, I don't see anything as a setback. It's a setup, right? So first tell yourself that there are no setbacks. There's only setups. And so I believe that just as conveniently the universe is pushing me away from something, it's pushing me towards something as well. It's not a very complex idea to understand. And so when we look at things that happen, things that we don't anticipate, things that we don't plan, then we can perceive things as pushing us towards something better, right? I see when things happen in my life that others don't perceive as being good or bad, right? We put judgments and conditions that are just completely arbitrary and capricious. But when things push me in a direction, it's a setup, right? And I'm asking myself, where's the light, the love, and the lessons in it? I'm grateful for it. If I've learned something, I forgive myself or forgive others because I deserve it. They don't. I take accountability by saying to myself, what did I do to attract it to myself, and what am I supposed to learn from it? Then I effectively communicate with the light, the love, and the lesson, saying to myself, what do I need to learn? Where can I clear the interference, the corrosion between me and this unbelievable source of power, light, and love that I'm always connected to? And how can I appreciate it, give gratitude to it, add value to it, and give it away to others, empowering others to empower others? There are no setbacks, just set-ups. That's why and how I believe that. What is your favorite car and why? Thank you, Joseph. I love these questions because they are probably in the widest spectrum, and they show, the unbelievable things that people want to know. My favorite car is, and why? My favorite car is my Volt. It gets me, and I've had great cars. Cars, I've had Ferraris, I've had G-Wagons, I've had all types of cars, but my Volt never breaks down, doesn't take gas. If I need gas, it's in there. I don't care if anybody scratches it, dings it. I can teach my daughters to drive in it and not worry about it. I also can threaten them if they're not good that they have to drive that, and that will be their car. It also reminds me of radical humility, probably the most important thing, that when I drive it, I am not my car. I'm not defined by my car. I don't want people to judge me or put conditions on me because of the car that I drive. That's right, Chevy Volt, favorite car ever, still there, 2011, sitting right outside right now. Unwashed, by the way. Thank you because of this time. Let's see if we can get some more questions here. Who's in the house? We'll get one more question, hopefully. Let me arrow down. Oh, there's a lot of questions there. How do you avoid thinking too small about the possibility of your success? Edwin Yahweh had this great thing about the articulating process of the brain and thinking about too small. The way that we think, there's no small or no big, And so what you want to do is not limit yourself, right? We do not want to limit ourselves. So when we think of our what, we don't want to think of our what for what other people have voted for. We don't want to be ordinary. If you are trying to determine what you want by what other people have, you're going to end up having a limited existence because your possibilities have already existed. Right? The greatest thing about human beings is we can create our own environment. We are the only species that can create our own environment, meaning that we can create things that don't exist. We can create things that don't exist. So if your what's already exist, you're not thinking big enough, right? We want to go ahead and imagine what we want to paint in our lives and then go ahead and execute on painting what we imagine. So imagine something that doesn't exist or you'll just be ordinary. There's a reason they call it extraordinary, because those are the people that are thinking and dreaming about what they want in unlimited possibilities. You know, like empowering over 1 billion people to be happy. Got to be willing to have people laugh at you, scoff at you, make fun of you. That's cool. They'll applaud you someday. I promise you, they will if you enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. All right, is Laura here? Let's go live here. And I don't see my friend Laura. There you are. The Grace Laura Wilder. Let me see. Let me find you, my dear friend. Where is she? She's here. There we are. Hi, Laura. This is so cool that she came. My friend Laura, exceptional woman, and she is the epitome of enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential. I had to have you. You look beautiful, by the way. How are you? Oh, can you hear me? Oh, no, I can't hear you.
Yeah, I can.
Oh,
Can you
there
hear
we
me?
go.
Woo, we did it.
Yeah, this technology stuff. We're learning. I had to have you on because I'm doing my training on Don't Quit this week. And,
Oh,
you are the mental consultant for the LA Clippers. You're an extraordinary just mindset person.
thank you.
And when I think of people that don't quit, I think of you, Laura, because you, no matter where you were in your existence, I get choked up thinking of your story, right? You're just not, you're a setup person, not a setback person.
Exactly, exactly. You know
Can you
what you
share
said
with
about
everyone your
don't.
story?
Yeah, I will. I'll share it briefly. Because it's funny because my son gets upset sometimes about it. He says, "I don't want to remember that you were homeless." And I said, "But when I was homeless, my son was living in a place in New York City, following his dreams of becoming a professional basketball player." So in about 2008, I was learning holistic healthcare, and I realized that what I was learning from mindset would help the NBA people and really be able to help athletes. I was a former basketball coach. So I set out on this determined path to get there, whatever it took. And in between that, I found myself sleeping in my car because everything broke down and broke apart. I had to build it back up very slowly. There were trips of me driving from LA to New York and down to Florida and back up just to meet people and try to connect and find new places where I could live and thrive. Finally, one day I realized I had to move back to LA and I wanted to work with the Clippers and one of the football teams. And I met my future boss at a Whole Foods store. I mean, literally magically, he showed up and recognized that the work I did could help the team. But, I was sleeping in my car. I used to joke because I had a really nice life and it fell apart, but I kept going. And I really believe a dream has to be scary or it's not even worthy of you. Like, you're trading your time for it. So I say, is it a scary dream? Because only scary dreams are worth trading your whole life for. It should
Yeah,
terrify you, right? You should be like, oh my God, how can I do this? Because if you know the how, it's wrong, right? It's got to be divine intervention, has to happen, or it's not even worth having as a dream.
yeah. If faith is not a component of your dream, then you're not dreaming big enough. And you're not
Absolutely.
connecting to what you're supposed to be connecting to, which is an
Yeah.
absolute. And you think about that because so many people would have loved to have your position with an NBA team.
Yes.
And they send their resumes and they do what they think they're ordinary. They do what
Yeah.
everyone else does
Hmm.
instead of having that faith. And it's the combination of the law of faith and attraction with the law
Hmm.
of Goya, though, right? Once again,
Yes.
that athletic background of yours, the get off your ass, nothing's going to happen unless you practice every day, right? Practice,
Right.
practice,
Right. Practice,
practice.
practice.
And, but how can you help me describe to people? Because, I have an audacious dream of empowering over 1 billion people to be happy.
Yeah.
right? I want to be big and
The day
over.
I heard that,
Oh,
the day I heard that, I thought that's one of my people in this lifetime. That is
yeah.
like when I heard you say that.
And I try to explain to people that period of time, you're doing, you're there and nobody's listening, right?
Yeah, all the
But
time.
but somebody's listening.
Yeah.
One, right? Like
One
I
person at
can't
least.
describe it to people. I get really emotional about it because I try to describe like, okay, I get that things aren't going your way, right? Like I've
Yeah.
had sheriffs and big moving trucks and a big foreclosure sign, and my kids hate when I talk about this, right? They're like, Dad,
Yeah. Yeah.
don't talk about mom wasn't happy with you, and you were an idiot. Don't do,
Yeah.
look, but that's where I was. But I want you to describe to people how you would say if someone's on that journey, that one point where you're like, nah, I don't care. I'm sleeping in my car. I don't care what people think. They're laughing at me.
Yeah.
When I'm sitting there going, I'm gonna work for an NBA team, and they're like, you are sleeping in a car. Why would D Brown ever listen to you? You can't
Right.
even afford a printer to put a piece of paper on. How are you going to get that job? But there's something that you're connected to, right? There's
Hmm.
something that's coming
Yeah.
through you or in you or beside you. How do you describe that to people?
Hmm. Well, I know that I couldn't even afford the gas to drive across town, right? And what I kept doing is I kept tuning in. I would go to Agape, I would listen, and I would meditate. I mean, when you're homeless, you have a lot of darn time, right? I mean, at one point I was working at a juice bar and homeless and trying to grab showers in the morning at 5 a.m. at my friend's house. But one thing I kept doing is meditating, and I kept enjoying nature. I would go sleep by the beach and wake up and say, I've got open oceanfront property. Or I'd go on Georgina Street. It helps to be homeless if you had a nice life and your car is not a piece of trash, right? So I'd go sleep in the nicest streets in Santa Monica and look. So I was constantly visualizing, even at that point. I still was using my imagination and visualizing the places that I wanted to be. So I was always acting as if I would wake up by the ocean and say, I love this oceanside home that I have. And I did not let the circumstances define me because circumstances cannot define you if you really want to get outside of a circumstance. So I didn't let a lack of money, I didn't let a lack of, enough food or a lack of a place to do good laundry to keep me from my dream because nothing could keep me from my dream. Once I really set a big enough dream, I actually felt pulled by it. I wasn't, even though it was challenging, it was pulling me as much as I was pushing myself to get there because I really tuned into the divine energy and started listening instead of talking all the time. I started meditating and just waiting. And I was, working on getting in alignment. I don't even know that I really chased my dreams. I certainly wasn't lazy, but I got in alignment with it. What would someone who's a mental performance coach in the NBA be like, And that job wasn't being advertised. I thought, I have some skills and a special skill set that people need. Let me go find someone. I don't know who it's going to be, but I'm open and available to any and more good that I can ever imagine. And boom.
Yeah. Yeah, and both of us have a mentor and a friend, Michael Beckwith, right?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
talked and helped me understand allowance and alignment and allowance. And I think the tricky part, which really puts you in a great position to be a mental coach for the Clippers, is the allowance and alignment seem very passive and woo-woo, right? Very spiritual. People can watch this right now and go, "Oh man, these two are they're way out there. They're
Yeah.
meditating," but I'm a ferocious Buddha, and I know you're
Yeah,
a ferocious Buddha as well.
for sure.
And that combination, which is most people in their mind, is conflictual. Wait a second,
Yeah.
how can you be a Buddha but be a badass? Like, how can you be
Yeah.
like a tiger? Like, I'm a dog on a tire that won't let go. You try to right, and
Yeah.
I'm being pulled
Yeah.
to it, but I'm hanging
Yeah.
on when they're pulling because when you pull something towards something, your initial reaction is to let go.
Yeah, it's so true, right? And actually, I'm a ferocious unicorn Buddha, by the way. I'm a unicorn
Right
ferocious
on.
Buddha. I, it, you know, I am relentless. I am intense, and I know that I can often drive people crazy. But then I say, well, who am I driving crazy? Someone who's okay with mediocrity, okay with not reaching their dreams? Because I don't think I'd ever drive, Steve Ballmer crazy or some of those people who, like, Elon Musk wouldn't think I'm crazy. He wouldn't be
No.
bothered by my insistence, intensity. I love to read books. So I'm going to learn everything. I'm going to leave no stone unturned in understanding how I can be the best mental performance coach. I bought every single book that's ever been written on mental performance by anyone else to make sure I'm not missing anything. And that relentless attitude, I think, is I don't know that it's rare, and I don't know that it can be taught, but when you have it, you can't let other people dim you down. And once I got to the NBA, I realized, oh, these are my people, the ones who are okay if I get into them, like, hey, you're not being excellent. Where on the other side of town and the world, I was being criticized for being, oh, you're so aggressive. Yes, I am,
Yeah.
in a loving way. I'm just here to embrace and expand around, whatever else, whatever the obstacles are. I'm not going to go into contraction. I'm going to be an expansion about them. And that's going to help you go further. No human being can get in the way of your dreams.
I love that. Yes, I am. When people say things, they laugh at me, scoff at me, make fun of me, tell me I'm too aggressive, ask me questions
Yeah.
about hypocrisy, because I'm an evolving creature, that my values have evolved and changed, and you can judge me for who I am. That's fine. But I love telling them, yeah, you're exactly right. Well, you told me, Dave, 10 years ago this. You're damn right I
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I absolutely,
Yeah.
I am, and this is who I am. And tomorrow, I maybe even more, but I'm making room for what I want, and
Yes. Yeah.
allowing that so it comes through me for other people. What's
Yeah.
the biggest issue? Get a little bit deeper for because people are always curious about professional athletes, and unfortunately, we both unfortunately have seen the transition of these athletes from very young ages into superstardom. But people think that because they have one part of their life in exceptional order, that all the other parts of their life are in order. And it's all those other parts that are in order that affect the thing that they're so exceptional at, that quantum being of an
Yeah.
incredible athlete.
Yeah.
What is the biggest challenge for a young NBA player off the court? What's their biggest
Hmm.
challenge?
I think one of the challenges that everyone is in their ear. Everyone thinks they know. Everyone has something to share with them or something to get from them. And staying focused is really a challenge. And also, depending on what team you play on, maybe you're contributing, maybe you're not. So I think there's constantly the ability to doubt yourself if you don't have a really strong mindset. And you could think, am I good enough for this league? Because even if you're good enough, you may be playing behind veterans, and that doesn't mean anything because there are other people who have paid their dues. So, and I think maybe having to buy donuts and Chick-fil-A before the flight, that's pretty hard. When we're taking off out of town and like, where's the rookie? Oh yeah, he's at Chick-fil-A. And they come with these huge bags. I mean, I always wanted to be in the NBA until I see some of those rookie jokes that go on. But,
Yeah.
it's part of paying your dues. And I think that, being in the NBA, people say, oh, you got the best job in the world. It's amazing. Yeah, the money's great. And I think there's a lot of other things. Like any of us, there are challenges and things that make it hard for us.
Yeah, I think you nailed the point that's truly attributable to you as well. Is we are two people that see things, whatever activity that we're in, there's a certain percentage that you automatically love. Like even when you were
Yeah.
living in the car, there's
Yeah.
some of it that you love. Like
Yeah.
I could never afford this property. And I'm looking
Right.
at the ocean. I love that
Yeah.
automatically.
Yeah. I was
But
happier then than maybe ever in my life. Like, honestly, I think even now I'll sit here in my beautiful 2-bedroom apartment, Playa Vista, that has everything I need. And I sadly, and I try not to focus too much on those moments, but I'll go, wasn't it nice when life was so simple when I kept 5 outfits in a suitcase and I didn't worry about anything else? I didn't care how I looked. I was real skinny, didn't have a lot of food. I was so happy. And all I could really afford was Cafe Gratitude's Gratitude Bowl. So my skin was amazing. So,
that's awesome. Well, the only thing you wish is you were as small as me to fit in the car and be able to sleep. I'm like
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
built for travel.
I had some
Um,
long legs, so it was uncomfortable at times.
I got no legs. I'm built for a chair. I got a long body, no legs. I'm like a Oompa Loompa. Anyway, last thing, in no matter what we're doing, especially I think more difficult when people perceive us to have these extraordinary
Yeah.
journeys,
Mm-hmm.
we still have to learn to love what we do. The
Mm-hmm.
portion of what we don't
Right.
love, and that's the key to life, is can you seek
Mm-hmm.
the light, the love, and the lessons
Right.
in the things that you can't see, the
Yeah.
light, the love, and the lessons, and have faith that there's light, love, and lessons in everything,
Yeah.
even living in your
Yeah.
car, going bankrupt, or whatever
Yeah.
challenges people
Right.
have
That too.
today, physical,
Yeah.
mental, emotional, spiritual. I would say
Mm-hmm.
pain is an indicator that you have a lesson to learn. Some people just
Yeah.
aren't looking at it as an indicator. They think it's a slap in the face.
Yeah.
What's your best piece of advice for people to seek those light, the love, and the lessons in everything?
Hmm. I think, first, being able to look in the mirror and look at your eyes deeply and recognize that you are far more than anything that comes in from out here could ever be. And I always say, like, tap into right here. This is where your source energy comes from. And you can find the deepest self-love in the breath and in intuition. So for me, the best way to really recognize, like, what a beautiful soul, an amazing being that you're meant to be, is to get really clear in the mirror and to set yourself up with positive images all around you. Like, every time I open my kitchen cabinet, something says, you are a peaceful, loving being. I go, oh yeah, because I literally have to constantly remind myself. I have little calendar notifications that pop up. So every day at 9 a.m., my phone says, you are living in a hurricane of grace. I got that from one of the teachers of the world, right? And so I might be in a moment where I'm thinking something and it says, you are in a hurricane of grace. And I instantly get transformed back to who I'm truly meant to be. So I surround myself with images, positive images and pictures that keep me on the path, because even when, with all the work that I've done on myself, it's not an automatic default. It's getting there. But I think just surround yourself with positive images, people, and reach out to people like Dave and I who can remind you of how great you are, right?
That is awesome, Laura. I love you. I appreciate you.
I
I
love
can't wait
you.
to see you again. I'm going to steal, you'll get credit for it, but someone already posted it, Sassy Agent there. Get clear in the mirror. I love that. Get clear in the
Yes,
mirror,
clear in the
right here with
mirror.
the ferocious unicorn and the ferocious Buddha. We're
Thanks, House of
awesome.
Lachlan. Appreciate you guys. Love you too, Dave.
Love you. Have a great
Love
time.
you.
Stay healthy.
Thanks. Thanks, you too.
Bye-bye. Laura Wild, mental coach for the Clippers and good friend. She's on the right journey. Unbelievable. Go Chargers. Hey, got it there. Let's bring Zach on. We got my overtime friend. He saw him here looking so good. Where are you, Zach Alacius? I'm looking for you, buddy. Got so many people. Thank you so much. There he is, overtime Zach. There you go. What a great guest, right? What a great perspective. Get clear in the mirror. Zach.
Hey, what's up, David? Good to see you.
It's great to see you. Oh my gosh, this is surrealistic because I think one of the last people in New York, you and I hooked up there, I think. Is that right? In person?
It was in Vegas, I think, actually, at
Oh,
CES,
Vegas.
right? Yeah.
That's just, oh, right, CES. I'm thinking, where was that? That just shows you this is the most I've ever stayed at home since I've been 24. So I'm completely losing track of where I was and who I met with and where I'm going. You travel a lot as well, right?
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. What has it been like to you to be grounded?
Um, Good and bad. I mean, the good is I'm living with my girlfriend, so I get to see her every single day. I get to wake up next to her, which is really nice. My parents also live here in Manhattan, so I've been spending a lot of time with them. So from a family and girlfriend perspective, it's great. Obviously, I'm not seeing any friends other than that, which is normally the benefit of staying home. But I definitely miss it. I mean, there's something invigorating about getting on a flight, getting a ton of work done on the flight, landing, taking a bunch of meetings, feeling like you're really productive, and working at the hotel room, doing the same thing the next day, and then flying back. Like, you just feel like, wow, I had a really good couple days. And I think that it kind of breaks it up to travel 1 week and then work in the office a couple weeks. It breaks things up, and working at home consistently, it can be a little monotonous, I think, is one of the issues that I've found.
Yeah, and I think, different areas of the country, people have different issues, right? When we're on top of each other in New York City, it's really difficult where, I have friends in Oklahoma and there's hardly any of that interaction problem. It's still very difficult in New York City to interact with your friends. And so I think the multivariable life changes that are occurring are one of the challenges that we have. It's this separation of people can't share the same perspective because already we all have different perspectives and different challenges and different lessons in light and love in our life. But now it's exponentially more present because like you and I had more similar journeys before this happened. And now, as you're describing the challenges that you have, they're so divergent from my challenges, but I have other ones that you're like, oh, I don't have to deal with that. I can just go and order up food. I've been ordering up food for, the last 20 years, Dave. We have so many great restaurants in New York, but meanwhile, we're like, can we just get one good meal? Um, so business wise though, over time, obviously you're sitting in a really good space that can change dramatically, but also take advantage, meaning economically gain so other people can gain as well. What are some of the advantages that you see right now for overtime?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest, I would say there's two big advantages that we have. One is that we're not dependent on live sports. When we started the company, we really believe that young people were less interested in watching live sports than their parents, and obviously the cost structure is quite difficult. And I would say the second is really the power of the overtime community. We're not a one-to-many media company. Like, we respond to every single DM that we get. And so we actually are uplifting people's spirits. It's been so cool to see so many kids DM us and say, "Wow, you're really keeping me inspired. Overtime is keeping me going." I think that we have a unique ability to be able to do that because we're such a personal brand and we speak for such a specific audience. So when you have that, you're not really dependent on a basketball game going on or a football game going on. What you're really dependent on is the relationships and how you can continue to foster those. So, for example, for the past bunch of Fridays, we've been doing pizza parties with our fans, and a couple lucky fans will receive actual pizzas, but everyone else is just tuning into the IG Live to have pizza together. Or we ran a campaign called Who's Next, where we profiled all these athletes who got their season canceled, but we wanted to make sure that they were still able to have their story be told, and we told sort of mini profiles on them. And then the athletes and the celebrities that want to work with us too. We're constantly filming with them. We can't film with them in person right now, but we figured out ways to have them do sneaker closets and show us behind the scenes in their homes. So I think we're able to satisfy our community, able to satisfy the athletes, and I think ultimately, we make money through people continuing to buy our gear. We make money through brands wanting to work with us, and I would say that brands are really as excited as ever because there's not a lot of ways right now to resonate, especially with this Gen Z audience. And I think that we're just proving more than ever that we're able to do that.
Yeah, I think you are. And I think you said the key word that makes a difference at overtime is community. You talked about being able to have one-on-one DM, and all the things that really I set out what I call kind of the Noah Arc strategy. And I see, Larry's on here from overtime. You got the gear, but it's truly a community where some of the bigger networks, right? And this isn't just in sports, but they never built a community, right?
Yep.
They allowed you to access information, but it wasn't like this community of the network where companies like Overtime and Barstool, it's been an objective of mine that's paying off in the same positive way that, two people at a time. I call myself Noah Arc because I just told, Gary when we started 3.5 years ago, and I was blessed at Super Bowl to talk to him and start working with him. I was like, I just want two people that are going to help two people to help two people, and they'll keep growing.
Yeah.
But all those people, we're a community, right? It's not like I'm just sending stuff and, the free trainings on Friday, whether it's motivation or scaling a business or 5 to Thrive or don't quit. You guys do the exact same thing that I do as an individual, and we share communities, which is really nice too. What do you think the emotional aspect, it's great logistically what you do by connecting, but when I look at Overtime or I look at Barstool, there's like, and even my brand, like I love when people come to my defense, right? There's an emotional attachment going, oh no, where do you think that emotional attachment comes from?
I would say there's two things that jump out of my mind right away. I think one is voice. I think that if you're talking in the same way as your audience, I think especially for us when most media companies are not meant for the 17-year-old or the 19-year-old. They're meant for honestly the person that's going to pay for cable in most cases, because most giant media companies are getting most of their money through TV. And so for us, because we're able to focus our voice on that younger audience. And then I would say the second is listening, right? I see we're not the only account that will comment back and will comment on other people's posts, but I would say that we're one of the few accounts that is not just posting a thumbs up emoji or a fire emoji or like a nice or whatever. We're actually listening to what that person wrote and having a conversation. And I think that really our entire social media team is told to listen to our audience, because not only does it affect your conversation in that moment, but it affects the next thing that you're going to post, the next caption that you're going to have. So I think that I've seen that you do that on an individual level. And I think that if you're not listening, you're never going to be able to evolve your community, because our voice has not stayed 100% the same time. Our strategy has not stayed the same. The way that you're able to adapt is by listening to what your audience really wants.
Yeah, and then you actually have, and become a brand where these giant conglomerates, just like you see it in the liquor space, you see it in the health and beauty space, Native, or, my boy, the Fat Jewish, you build a community. Now the conglomerates have to go buy your community, right? And it's the Howard Stern method. He was the first, in my opinion, to do it. He built a community, people that loved and hate him. That was his community. And then the big networks came in and said, oh, we can never achieve this, so we're going to go ahead and purchase, just like we did Native in the health and beauty space, or Babe or other liquor. They build those communities, but more and more of those communities will be more valuable and more important. What's the last piece of advice, best piece of advice that you can give people that are trying to either individually build a brand, or as a bigger brand like yourself, a content platform, a media platform? What's the best piece about building the community besides the interaction? Is there some energy or frequency advice that you can give?
I mean, in terms of frequency, like, you got to be consistent. You got to be pretty much always on. I think you just have to be in the hearts and minds of people. I mean, at Overtime, across all of our platforms, we probably post 50 times a day. And we're pretty consistent about that. It's not like you're going to wake up tomorrow and be like, oh man, did Overtime post anything yesterday? No, we're always going to post something. We're always going to be present in your lives. So I would say that. I would say in the early days, I do think that social media makes networking a lot easier. And this is even an example of that, right? Like, I'm doing this because I want to promote the Overtime brand, and I like you, and this is fun. But I think, there are a couple people on here that might be like, oh, Zach is interesting. Maybe I'll give him a follow. And so I think that social media allows you to grow much more quickly and grow your community. The thing is, though, you want to make sure that if you're partnering in the early days, that the people that you're partnering with and the accounts that you're partnering with are the actual community that you care about, right? So, if I'm starting Overtime and I get some random, if I'd say, I mean, we don't pay accounts to post this, but let's just say in the most extreme case, you're going to say, oh, shout me out for $100, right? You want to make sure that if you're going to pay for that, that it's at least the audience that you actually care about long term. Like, a follower doesn't really matter. A community member is really what matters.
Yeah, it's so funny because Savannah and Cole LeBrand, Savannah was our babysitter, and she's a big YouTuber, right? Like millions, and they're like a cute couple with beautiful kids, and they're entertaining. But that's, not really my audience. Like, right. I'm a business person that deals with executives like you and entrepreneurs and technology and sports. That's what I do. I'm not dancing and singing maybe once in a while, but just for the fun of it. But, my guys are like, hey, early on, the young kids here, like, why don't you get, Cole and Savannah on your podcast? And I was like, because Cole and Savannah have nothing to say in my podcast. What are they going to say? And so their audience, it is really important to be loyal to your audience, because there's 4.2 billion people and growing so rapidly that there's plenty, even the Kardashians that talk to the train wreck crowd, which is the biggest crowd. If you really want an audience, just be a train wreck. Tiger King, Kardashians, Housewives. I call it the train wreck vibration. That's the majority of people on, the internet. They'll love you, and you can get a ton of people, but it's not really a community. You're still just like the networks. You're still just entertaining. You're popping up The Last Dance. People are watching. It's not really a community. It's still in that train wreck. Tiger King doesn't have a community. They're entertaining, and people love to watch a train wreck. So you guys are doing it the right way. I also wanted to have you on because I enjoy seeing you, Zach. I want to make sure you're happy and healthy. You guys are killing it at Overtime. I'm a huge fan because of the authenticity, as they say, and frequency that you guys provide. Anything I can ever do, you just let me know. I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks, David. Really appreciate you having me, and hope to see you soon. Glad to see you're healthy too.
Awesome, brother. Zach Wiener, Overtime. Check them out. We'll give you guys the link. I saw a lot of people hadn't heard of Overtime. Mac Daddy, also, you should send your content to them. I saw that in there as well. Great community, great job those guys do. Let's take a quick question as we got 1 more minute. What do you think your unique selling point is? Middle-aged mutant turtle, right? I'm a unique individual on the internet that I have a traditional background, right? I went to law school. I worked in technology. I've been in the equity side of things. I ran the most notable sports agency, the first smartphone. I have traditionally worked in person on the phone via email before they had a cell phone, before they had email. I worked and figured out one thing, human nature. And so I think the unique aspect of what I do is that I have a lot of situational knowledge experience, but I'm still young enough to understand the technology. So I'm right on that cusp of being too old and just old enough. And I think that's a unique aspect of what I do, trying to pursue as honestly as I can and illuminate all the dummy tax that I've paid so everyone else doesn't have to pay that dummy tax. I think that's a good way to go. Friday, we're going to talk about dummy tax. I'm not a quitter. I'll tell you that. I'm like a little mule, always have been, and I'm not going to quit ever. I'm going to enjoy the consistent, persistent pursuit of my potential and teach you how not to quit. So join me Friday, 11 a.m. 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern time. It's free. You can text me at 949-298-2905, dmeltzer.com/training. Go ahead. Check me out. Most importantly, everybody, thank you for joining me. We'll see you tomorrow at 8 a.m. Be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Have a great day.